It was a calm morning on February 24, 2023 until turmoil erupted inside the Banfield home. Cries and frantic voices spilled from the upstairs bedroom, followed moments later by gunfire. When officers arrived, the scene didn't quite add up. 2 bodies, a knife, and a narrative that felt incomplete. What truly unfolded that day? As investigators pressed forward, they uncovered unsettling truths that reshaped the case into one of deceit, plotting, and murder. In 2003, at 18, Christine began her studies at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, aiming for a nursing degree. The following year, during her freshman year, she met Brendan Robert Banfield, and the two soon became a couple. Christine finished her degree in 2007. And in 2008, Brendan asked her to marry him. Their nearly 2-year engagement ended with their wedding on June 12, 2010. Christine was a dedicated nurse who put her heart into her work, often taking on exhausting 16-hour overnight shifts. Even with the demanding hours, she found joy in her career and documented parts of her life online. She occasionally posted about her fitness routine at a nearby gym where Brendan would sometimes accompany her. Friends recalled how consistently supportive Brendan was, cheering her on during workouts and praising the progress she made. Christine once shared how uplifting it felt when Brendan encouraged her, especially when he pointed out the positive changes her healthier lifestyle brought. Brendan, by contrast, kept a lower profile on social media, rarely posting personal information. He worked as a federal agent in the tax department, handling cases involving fraud and tax evasion. Together, Christine and Brendan created a life shaped by shared commitment, hard work, and a strong bond. They loved going to football games, hosting gatherings, taking trips, and exploring different countries. They looked like a classic American couple who met young and planned a bright future together. After starting out in New York, they eventually moved to Herndon, Virginia, settling into a home worth over $1 million in one of the city's most sought-after neighborhoods. They were financially secure, both earning strong salaries and enjoying a comfortable life. Their careers sometimes required them to travel, which meant they were occasionally away from each other. In one of her posts, Christine mentioned putting their dog in a pet hotel because both she and Brendan had work trips at the same time. Then in October 2017, at age 32, Christine shared that she was 3 months pregnant. On March 30, 2018, she welcomed a baby girl into the world. From that point forward, Christine's social media showed the happiness she found in motherhood, often posting photos of her growing family. In 2019, the Banfields chose to participate in the Culture Care Au Pair program. For anyone unfamiliar, the program promotes cultural exchange by connecting families with au pair from other countries who live with them, help care for their children, and take classes, all while receiving housing, meals, and a stipend. In April 2019, Amanda, a young woman from Brazil, joined the household through the au pair program. Over the next 2 years, she Formed a strong connection with the family. She posted pictures of their trips, celebrations, and day-to-day moments, illustrating her close relationship with the Banfields. Christine even described her as a member of the family. Although Amanda's official time with them ended in 2021, she stayed an additional 6 months. Because global travel restrictions delayed her return home. Encouraged by their positive experience, the Banfields sought another au pair, specifically someone from Brazil. That search led them to Juliana Perez Magalhães, a 23-year-old nurse from São Paulo. Juliana arrived in late 2021 after completing the au pair program requirements. Like Amanda, she built a solid bond with the family. Though not quite as close as Amanda had been, her relationship with the Banfields appeared strong enough that they decided to extend her stay for an additional year. But everything shifted on February 24, 2023, at about 7:50 a.m., a short 911 call was made from Juliana's phone, but ended abruptly. 13 minutes later, a second call came in during which Juliana said a friend was hurt. Moments after that, Brendan took the phone and informed the dispatcher that he had found his wife, Christine, stabbed in their upstairs bedroom and had shot a man named Ryan. Police arrived within 10 minutes and found Ryan dead and Christine critically wounded in the upstairs bedroom. Christine was rushed to a nearby hospital and thankfully the couple's 4-year-old daughter, who had been inside the home, was physically unharmed. Sadly, Christine did not survive her injuries and died shortly after reaching the hospital. Brendan was also taken in for treatment for a leg injury. Early police reports identified the deceased man as Joseph Ryan, age 38. According to the initial account, Ryan had allegedly broken into the Banfield home, attacked Christine with a knife, and was then shot and killed by Brendan. That was all authorities shared at the time. After he was released from the hospital, Brendan declined to speak with investigators or the media about what had happened. Juliana, however, cooperated completely. She gave detectives her full account and signed an official statement. According to her version of events, she arrived at the Banfield home that morning for work and saw Joseph Ryan forcing his way inside. Terrified, she called Brendan, who was away from the house, and asked what to do. Brendan allegedly told her to stay calm and promised he would arrive within minutes. Juliana claimed she remained outside for her own safety until Brendan showed up. When he arrived, they entered the house together and discovered Christine critically wounded. They also encountered Joseph Ryan, who was still inside. She said a struggle broke out between Brendan and Ryan, during which Brendan managed to reach a firearm stored in the home and fired several rounds at Ryan, killing him. Brendan later backed up Juliana's version of events, insisting he had acted in self-defense, but one confusing detail stood out in Juliana's statement. She claimed she arrived at the Banfield home early that morning to begin work. Since au pairs usually live with the host family, this raised questions about where she had been beforehand. 4 months, investigators kept nearly all details from the public, choosing not to disclose what they had uncovered. During that time, neighbors reported seeing Juliana at the Banfield home often, though it wasn't clear whether she was still living there. She was frequently spotted with the couple's daughter, fueling speculation that she continued to nanny for the family. By August 2023, Juliana posted on social media that she was seeking a nanny job in the area, because au pairs aren't permitted to look for outside work while enrolled in the program. This indicated she was no longer participating in it at that time. After more than 7 months of investigation, authorities assembled crucial evidence and forensic findings that began to clarify what had happened. Based on what Juliana had reportedly told her family in Brazil, police initially believed that Joseph Ryan had killed Christine following a dispute, as the two were allegedly involved romantically. But everything shifted dramatically on October 19, 2023, when Juliana was unexpectedly arrested. She was stunned as officers charged her with second-degree murder, alleging that she, not Brendan, had fired the shots that killed Joseph Ryan. Investigators also determined that Brendan had not been home when the shooting occurred, contradicting the narrative both he and Juliana had previously given. Juliana was taken to the Fairfax County Detention Center. At first, the public supported her, celebrating her as a courageous young woman who had stepped in to protect the family that had embraced her. Many people also felt sympathy for Brendan, believing he might have lied to protect Juliana, aware that her temporary visa status could put her future in the U.S. at risk. But police later disclosed that there were no signs of forced entry at the Banfield home, suggesting Joseph Ryan may have entered willingly, possibly with Christine's consent. Questions also emerged about whether Juliana had any prior connection to Ryan before that morning. These developments dramatically shifted public perception. Supporters began to question Juliana's account as theories spread online. The most widely discussed theory claimed that Juliana and Brendan were romantically involved and had planned the incident to eliminate Christine. Speculation suggested that a divorce would have required Brendan to divide his assets with Christine, and that he and Juliana allegedly staged the attack, using Joseph Ryan as a pawn in their scheme. Another theory suggested that Brendan and Juliana had been out together on the day of the incident and returned home to find Christine and Joseph in a confrontation. In this version, Joseph was thought to be a private investigator hired by Christine to verify suspicions of an affair. A violent struggle then broke out, leading to the deaths of both Christine and Joseph. A third theory proposed that Christine and Joseph were romantically involved and that Brendan, upon discovering them, killed them both in a moment of rage. Juliana, reportedly loyal to Brendan, allegedly covered for him, and the two are said to have begun a relationship afterward. During her first court appearance, Juliana testified that on the morning in question, Christine had given her and the 4-year-old daughter tickets to the zoo so she could have some time alone. Juliana claimed that Christine had intended to meet Joseph Ryan, whom she had met through a dating website. Juliana stated that she had forgotten the child's lunch and returned home to retrieve it, only to notice an unfamiliar car in the driveway and a man, later identified as Joseph Ryan, entering the house. Alarmed, she called Brendan, who told her to stay outside until he arrived. When Brendan got there, they went inside together. Juliana admitted to making the first 911 call, but quickly hung up, unsure of what to say. She then took the Banfield's young daughter to the basement for safety while Brendan armed himself and prepared to confront the situation. Moments later, sounds from the upstairs bedroom drew their attention. They hurried to the room and found Joseph Ryan standing over Christine, who was lying naked on the bed while Joseph, fully dressed, wielded a knife. Brendan pointed his gun at him, demanding he drop the weapon, but Joseph threatened to harm Christine if Brendan did not lower the gun. What followed was a chaotic and horrifying chain of events. Joseph began stabbing Christine as Brendan fired his gun, but most shots missed, leaving Joseph able to continue the attack. In desperation, Brendan shouted to Juliana to get another firearm stored in a bathroom safe. When she returned, rather than handing the gun to Brendan, Juliana fired a fatal shot into Joseph's chest, ending the assault. The pair then called 911 to report the incident. Juliana's defense rested on this version, asserting that she acted entirely in self-defense. The prosecution, however, presented a starkly different narrative. They claimed that Brendan and Juliana had been romantically involved for months and had orchestrated the whole event. According to their account, Brendan had pretended to leave for work that morning, but had stayed nearby, waiting for a signal from Juliana. The prosecution alleged that Joseph Ryan had been lured to the Banfield home under false pretenses, believing he was meeting Christine for a romantic encounter. They claimed that either Brendan or Juliana had created a fake profile for Christine on a dating site and used it to communicate with Joseph, arranging the meeting. Friends and family who later saw the messages described them as unusual, noting that the writing style did not match Christine's. On the day of the incident, Joseph reportedly arrived at the house and was greeted by Juliana, which explained the absence of forced entry. Soon after, he was ambushed by Brendan. According to the prosecution's theory, they contended that the couple had carefully orchestrated the entire scene to kill Christine, allowing Brendan to avoid splitting his assets in a divorce and to continue a wealthy life with Juliana. A witness from a shooting range testified that Brendan and Juliana had visited the facility 2 months before the incident. Brendan also returned alone a month later to purchase a firearm, the same one Juliana allegedly used to kill Joseph. Investigators further discovered that both Brendan and Juliana had replaced their cell phones just 4 days before the attack, which prosecutors argued indicated premeditation. Photos taken of the Banfield home after Juliana's arrest showed notable changes. The room that had belonged to Juliana was now empty, with her clothes, makeup, and personal items moved into Brendan's. Bedroom. All photos of Christine and Brendan with their daughter had been removed and replaced with images of Brendan and Juliana, some even including the child. While Juliana's defense acknowledged that a relationship may have existed between her and Brendan, they insisted it was not serious. They also argued that both Brendan and Christine had been unfaithful, casting doubt on the prosecution's claim of a carefully planned conspiracy. During the hearing, Brendan invoked his Fifth Amendment rights, refusing to answer questions that might incriminate him and offering only minimal responses. The prosecution also highlighted Juliana's attempt to obtain a new passport while her original had been confiscated during the investigation, suggesting it indicated an intent to flee the country. Her defense countered that she had been advised to apply for a new passport as a legitimate form of identification, emphasizing there was no plan to escape. Despite this explanation, the judge denied bail, ordering Juliana to remain in custody until her trial. Meanwhile, Brendan was released but remained under investigation. He initially claimed responsibility for shooting Joseph Ryan, but after forensic evidence showed that Juliana had fired the fatal shot, he changed his story. The Banfield's daughter was placed with relatives as the legal process continued. Months later, on September 16, 2024, police arrested Brendan, charging him with first-degree murder in connection with the deaths of both Christine and Joseph. Prosecutors alleged that Brendan had conspired to kill them at the family home using a firearm during the crime. While authorities did not reveal specific evidence linking him to the murders, they noted that he and Juliana had planned a trip to Brazil just days before his arrest. During his first hearing, it was disclosed that Brendan's relationship with Juliana began in August 2022, nearly a year after she had started working for the family. At the time, Juliana was in a long-distance relationship with a boyfriend in Brazil. The prosecution presented evidence that a month before the crime, Brendan and Juliana had traveled together to New York, stayed in a hotel, and attended a show on the morning of the incident. Brendan claimed he left home at 7:11 a.m., stopping at McDonald's for coffee. As part of his usual routine, he said that around 7:37 a.m. he received a call from Juliana reporting that an unknown man had entered the house, prompting him to rush home and leave his breakfast unfinished. During the hearing, however, prosecutors played the recording of Juliana's initial 911 call, which lasted only 8 seconds. In the background, Joseph Ryan could be heard groaning in pain before the call abruptly ended. When questioned about the call, Brendan claimed it had been cut off because they couldn't locate the phone after it fell. He admitted instructing Juliana to retrieve the second firearm from the bathroom safe as a precaution. However, instead of handing him the gun, Juliana used it to shoot Joseph in the heart. The sequence of events raised serious questions. Authorities highlighted a 13-minute gap between Juliana's first and second 911 calls. Joseph Ryan was already injured during the initial call, prompting investigators to question why it took Brendan and Juliana so long to make the second call. Prosecutors suggested that this interval was used to staged the scene, alleging that Joseph's body was repositioned to make it appear as though he had been actively attacking Christine. Investigators found that the knife at the scene belonged to Joseph Ryan and had been brought in a backpack. In his online conversations with someone he believed was Christine, Joseph had been encouraged to bring the knife as part of shared fantasies. The website they used catered to casual encounters and fetishes involving pain and pleasure. Authorities argued that this detail provided Brendan and Juliana with an opportunity to stage the scene. Paramedics who arrived noted several inconsistencies. Both Christine's and Joseph's bodies appeared to have been moved and repositioned. Joseph's arms were crossed and stained with Christine's blood in a way that would have been impossible, given the fatal gunshot he had sustained to the chest. Additionally, while paramedics tried to save Christine, Brendan reportedly showed little concern for her condition, repeatedly asking whether Joseph was still alive. Authorities interpreted this as evidence of Brendan's fear that Joseph might survive and reveal the truth. Blood spatter analysis further supported the theory that the scene had been staged. Forensic reports finalized in August 2023 confirmed that both Christine and Joseph had been moved after sustaining their fatal injuries. This evidence, combined with text messages and witness accounts, began to reconstruct the chain of events leading to the crime. Prior to the incident, Joseph had confided in a friend about his communications with Christine, noting that she had told him her marriage was open and that both she and Brendan engaged in relationships with others. According to their online conversations, Joseph shared explicit details, including photos of items he planned to bring to the encounter, a knife, handcuffs, and belts. He also mentioned plans to cut Christine's pajamas with the knife, which corresponded with the torn pajama set found in the bedroom. However, police determined that Joseph had never spoken with Christine over the phone or via video chat. This became a pivotal detail in the investigation. Authorities suspected that either Brendan or Juliana was behind the profile. If Joseph had been communicating with Juliana, her distinct Brazilian accent likely would have raised red flags. Yet, none of Joseph's friends recalled any mention of such an accent. Investigators speculated that Brendan might have fabricated a backstory, perhaps claiming Christine had lived in Brazil to explain any inconsistencies. Friends of Joseph interviewed by police described him as a peaceful person and expressed disbelief that he could have harmed Christine. They believed he had been manipulated into the situation, which ultimately led to his death. Between Juliana's arrest on October 19, 2023, and Brendan's arrest on September 16, 2024, the two remained in regular contact. In a recorded conversation, Juliana asked Brendan, "I hope you're not staying with me just because you're afraid I'll turn on you." Brendan responded by telling her to be quiet. This exchange, along with other evidence, heightened suspicions about their involvement in the crime. By late October 2024, Juliana agreed to a plea deal to avoid a full trial. She pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and agreed to testify against Brendan at his trial scheduled for February 2025. Prosecutors noted that her sentencing would largely depend on her testimony and the outcome of Brendan's case. During her confession, Juliana revealed that Brendan had orchestrated the entire plan. Their romantic relationship had begun in August 2022, about a year after Juliana started working for the family. By the fall of 2023, Brendan expressed a desire to eliminate Christine and began planning the crime using a fake profile on an adult dating site focused on fetish-based fantasies. Brendan impersonated Christine to initiate contact with Joseph Ryan. Over time, he manipulated Joseph into arranging a meeting at the Banfield home, instructing him to bring specific items, including a knife. To make the setup more believable, Brendan asked Juliana to speak with Joseph via a voice call on Telegram, pretending to be Christine. Juliana admitted she was initially hesitant, but eventually complied. On the day of the incident, Brendan waited nearby after leaving the house under the guise of going to work. He instructed Juliana to manage Joseph's arrival and play along with the deception. Juliana admitted feeling trapped and afraid, but said Brendan's control left her with little choice. She followed the plan and made the calls as directed. However, Christine's phone went straight to voicemail because Brendan had turned it off and hidden it in a kitchen drawer. Before leaving that morning, Brendan, waiting at a nearby McDonald's, received Juliana's call and pretended to try contacting Christine, knowing it would also go to voicemail. He then returned to the house, picked up Juliana and the couple's daughter, and entered the home through the basement. They left the child there before heading upstairs to the bedroom. Brendan confronted Christine while carrying his service weapon, and Juliana held the firearm Brendan had given her earlier that morning. When they entered the bedroom, they found Joseph holding a naked Christine. Brendan shouted, "Police!" before shooting Joseph in the head, causing him to collapse away from Christine. Juliana then made the first 911 call, during which Joseph's groans could be heard. Following Brendan's instructions, she ended the call prematurely. Afterward, Brendan grabbed the knife Joseph had brought and stabbed Christine multiple times. Meanwhile, the 911 operator tried to call back, but Juliana did not answer. She then noticed Joseph was still moving and fired the fatal shot into his heart. The medical examiner later confirmed that Brendan staged the crime scene, moving Christine and Joseph's bodies closer together to make it appear as though Joseph had attacked Christine. Once the scene was arranged, Brendan instructed Juliana to place a second 911 call, reporting that an intruder had broken into the Banfield home and attacked Christine. When police and paramedics arrived, Brendan accompanied Christine to the hospital, while Juliana took the couple's daughter to the police station. The unfolding events became the focus of intense public attention. Juliana's confession left little doubt that the crime was a conspiracy planned by her and Brendan to kill Christine and start a life together. Brendan's trial is scheduled for February 2025 with Juliana's Sentencing to follow soon after. Joseph. Ryan's mother has refrained from interviews to respect the investigation, but posted on social media after Brendan's arrest, saying that living without her only son has been unbearably painful and that her hope for justice is what keeps her going. Both Christine's and Brendan's families have expressed profound shock and grief over the tragedy. Christine was laid to rest at Queen of All Saints Cemetery in Suffolk County, New York. Meanwhile, the couple's 6-year-old daughter is reportedly being cared for by close relatives. No details about Joseph Ryan's funeral have been released to the public. The families affected continue to grapple with the tragedy as the nation watches closely, awaiting justice. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.